Have you ever been held back not by external circumstances, but by your own thoughts? Have you ever caught yourself spiraling into self-doubt, overthinking or assuming the worst without realizing that your brain had quietly flipped into autopilot? If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Our minds are powerful. They help us learn, plan, imagine and dream, but they can also trick us. Sometimes the very mechanisms designed to protect us end up holding us hostage. These are called cognitive distortions, or what we're calling today mind traps. They're sneaky, they're persistent, and worst of all, they often go unnoticed. You may not even realize you're stuck in one until it starts to shape your life, your relationships, your goals, and your self-worth. But here's the powerful part. Once you see a mind trap, you can escape it. And once you start escaping them, your mental clarity, resilience, and confidence grow exponentially. So today, let's break down 15 of the most common mental traps that quietly sabotage your thinking, and more importantly, how to get out of each one. The all or nothing trap. This trap shows up as black and white thinking. You're either a total success or a complete failure. There's no middle ground. If you didn't finish the entire workout, the whole effort was worthless. If your presentation wasn't flawless, it was a disaster. This trap is especially common among perfectionists, but the reality is that most things in life aren't binary. Progress isn't always linear, and most achievements come from a string of imperfect efforts. Life is built in the grey areas. To break free, start embracing nuance. Shift your focus to progress instead of perfection. Celebrate partial wins. Recognize effort. Remind yourself that doing something is infinitely better than doing nothing. You don't have to be perfect to be effective. The fortune-telling trap. This trap makes you believe you can predict the future, and spoiler alert, it's always negative. You imagine the worst possible outcome and then behave as though it's already guaranteed. I know I'm going to fail this test. There's no way this relationship will work. I'll never get that job. This kind of thinking paralyzes progress before it even begins. The truth is, none of us are psychic. Predicting failure often becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because we stop trying. To escape, start asking yourself, what's the evidence? Have I truly tested this possibility? What might go right? The key is to recognize that just because you feel something might happen doesn't mean it will. Stay rooted in reality, not assumption. The comparison trap. We're wired to compare. It's part of how we learn. But in a digital age, it's easy to spiral into harmful comparison. You see someone with a thriving business, perfect relationship, or flawless lifestyle, and start to feel like you're behind, broken, or failing. What we often forget is that people share their highlights, not their struggles. You don't see the effort, the late nights, the doubts behind the scenes. To break out, shift the lens inward. Compare yourself only to your past self. Ask, am I growing? Am I learning? Use others' success as inspiration, not as a ruler. Your timeline is yours, your path is unique, and your progress is still valid, even if it looks different from someone else's. The catastrophizing trap. In this trap, small problems turn into massive disasters in your mind. You lose your keys and suddenly envision missing work, getting fired, and ending up homeless. You stumble on a sentence during a presentation and assume everyone thinks you're incompetent. This trap stems from anxiety and the brain's desire to prepare for danger. But more often than not, it leads to unnecessary panic and irrational decisions. To escape it, practice reality testing. Ask yourself, what's the most likely outcome here? Then ask, if the worst did happen, how would I respond? Visualizing your coping mechanisms builds confidence. You'll realize you're more resilient than you think. The mind-reading trap. This one's tricky because it feels convincing. You assume you know what someone else is thinking, usually something bad. They didn't laugh at my joke, they must think I'm annoying. He hasn't replied to my message, he's clearly upset. The problem, you're not inside their head, you're projecting your own insecurities onto others. To get out, rely on facts, not assumptions. Ask yourself, what did they actually say or do? If it matters, seek clarification. A single honest conversation can unravel a whole web of imaginary narratives. Most of the time, people are thinking about themselves, not judging you. Once you believe something about yourself, someone else, or the world, your brain starts looking for evidence to support it. You believe you're not good at relationships, so you notice every awkward interaction and ignore the healthy ones. You think the world is unfair, so every injustice feels like proof. This trap filters your reality through a narrow lens, and it reinforces limiting beliefs. To break free, play devil's advocate with your own mind. Ask, what evidence contradicts this belief? Train yourself to seek multiple perspectives. Challenge your own biases with curiosity instead of defensiveness. Growth comes from being willing to be wrong and open to being more right than you expected. 7. The should trap. 7. The should trap. This trap is built on rigid internal rules. I should be more productive, I should be further in life, I should always be happy. Shoulds are heavy. They carry guilt, shame, and self-criticism. They reflect social expectations, family programming, or perfectionistic ideals, not necessarily your own values. To escape, turn your shoulds into coulds. Replace I should work out every day with I could work out more often because I value my health. This simple shift transforms obligation into empowerment, and empowered choices are far more sustainable than shame-fueled pressure. The labeling trap. This trap reduces complex people, including yourself, into one-word definitions. I'm stupid, she's lazy, he's toxic. It's mental shorthand, but it's also mental prison. Labels oversimplify. They remove context, growth, and nuance. When you label yourself negatively, you start to believe change isn't possible. To escape, replace labels with observations. Instead of saying, I'm a failure, say, I failed at this task, but I can learn from it. Instead of calling someone a jerk, say, they acted rudely in that situation. This shift creates room for growth, understanding, and improvement. The overgeneralization trap. In this trap, one negative experience becomes the rule. You mess up once and declare, I always mess up. You get rejected and think, I'll never find love. This trap exaggerates reality and minimizes possibility. It's emotionally driven, not evidence-based. To get out, isolate the experience. Tell yourself, this happened once and it doesn't define me. Ask, what can I learn from this situation to help me next time? When you treat setbacks as individual events rather than universal truths, you regain your power. The emotional reasoning trap. This is the belief that if you feel something strongly, it must be true. I feel worthless, so I must be. I feel anxious, so there must be danger. I feel guilty, so I must have done something wrong. But emotions aren't facts, they're signals, sometimes helpful, sometimes misleading. To break free, pause and ask, what thought is driving this feeling? Is it accurate? Is it helpful? Just because a storm is raging inside doesn't mean there's chaos outside. Learn to observe emotions without automatically believing them. The control trap. This trap convinces you that you can or should control everything: outcomes, people, timing, success. You micromanage life, trying to steer every detail. But the more you try to control, the more anxious and frustrated you become. Because the truth is, much of life is outside our control. To escape, focus on what is in your hands. your effort, your attitude, your responses. Practice letting go of what's uncertain. Trust yourself to handle what comes. Real peace doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from knowing you can navigate anything. 12. The negativity bias trap. Human brains are evolutionarily wired to notice threats. This was useful in the wild, but in modern life it often means we dwell on the bad and overlook the good. One critical comment outweighs 10 compliments. One stressful moment ruins the whole day. This skews your perception of reality and drains your motivation. To fight back, practice deliberate positivity. At the end of each day, reflect on what went right. Write down 3 wins, no matter how small. Gratitude isn't just feel-good fluff, it's a cognitive corrective tool. Over time, it rewires your brain to see balance. The rumination trap. Rumination is repetitive thinking, endless mental replay of what you said, what happened, what might happen. It masquerades as problem solving, but it's really just overthinking in disguise. This trap drains mental energy and prevents you from moving forward. To escape, recognize when you're spiraling. Ask, is this helping me take action or just making me feel worse? If it's the latter, redirect your focus. Step into your body, go for a walk, stretch, breathe. Clarity returns when the mind stops spinning. 14. The spotlight effect trap. This trap convinces you that everyone is watching and judging you. You trip on your words and think the whole room noticed. You wear something new and feel like 100 eyes are analyzing you. The truth, most people are focused on themselves. To escape this trap, remind yourself that the perceived spotlight is often an illusion. People are busy managing their own lives, thoughts, and insecurities. The freedom you gain when you stop performing for imaginary audiences is profound. 15. The fixed mindset trap. This trap is the belief that your traits are static. You're either smart or not, talented or not, successful or not. It sees failure as proof of inadequacy rather than a step toward mastery. This mindset closes doors. It breeds fear of effort and avoidance of challenges. To escape, adopt a growth mindset. See abilities as skills you develop, not traits you have or lack. Praise effort, embrace feedback, see mistakes as stepping stones. Your brain is plastic, changeable. Your potential expands every time you try, reflect, and improve. Now that you've explored these 15 mental traps, ask yourself, which ones show up most often in your life? Maybe it's the trap of catastrophic thinking, or the pull of constant comparison, or the echo of should that keeps you stuck. Whatever it is, remember this: you are not your thoughts, you are the one observing them. And with that awareness comes the power to choose differently, to interrupt the pattern, to reclaim your mind. Every time you escape a mental trap, you build a more accurate, empowered version of reality. You grow stronger, calmer, wiser, more yourself. Because your mind is not your enemy. It just needs your guidance. And the more you guide it with awareness and intention, the more it becomes a tool for growth rather than a trap of fear. You now have the tools. The question is, what will you do with them? Let me know in the comments which trap resonated most with you and what's one way you plan to step out of it starting today. And if you found this video helpful, share it with someone who might need a mental shift too. Because the more we understand our minds, the freer we become. Thanks for watching. Keep growing, keep noticing, and remember, you're more in control than